Okay, good morning, everyone. First and foremost, thanks for taking some time to hear our message. My name is Ricky Clark. I'm Deputy Director for NITAAC. NITAAC is an acronym that stands for the NIH Information Technology Acquisition Assessment Center. And what we do is all things IT for the federal government. I like to think of us as a lesser-known baby brother of the GSA or the NASA soup. We are big enough to fulfill all of your IT needs, but small enough to keep it personal. So NITAAC, as I like to think of us as a hidden gem. Before I came to NITAAC as Deputy Director, my biggest pain point in acquisition was probably IT-related services. And this is where you can find most of those answers. So what I'll try to do today is to give you a brief overview of, let's go to the next slide, of our program. Let's talk about IT modernization. In particular, some of the trends that we're seeing, those trends of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. I'll tell you some of the things that are going on there and how it affects us directly and how it should affect you as the general public, taxpayer, yada yada. I also talk about how NITAAC can help you out potentially if you're in that position. Provide some tips for small businesses that are trying to enter the government and actually work with NITAAC. That's always huge. I'll talk about CISP4, the updates. CISP4 is our next iteration of the vehicle. We've been around since 1996. I will cover some of that in our slide. But our next iteration is the CIO-SP4. CIO being the Chief Information Officer, SP Strategic Partner, and fourth is the fourth iteration. And then at the very end, answer the questions. Well, since we have an audience of this size, if you guys have a question throughout the presentation, just raise your hand. We'll take those in the middle. All right, next slide. Let's talk about the NITAAC vision. I won't go through the entire thing, but our purpose is to be the preeminent go-to streamlining contract vehicle to help those that are in need of federal IT products. I'll paraphrase it for you. We're basically trying to say if you need help applying or gathering or having IT solutions employed, then we are the place where you can come. We're better, faster, cheaper because we're employed under FAR Part 16, Vice Open Market, or FAR Part 8. At NITAAC, we can do things a lot quicker. Real quick, the traditional POP, I know before I came here on the outside, if I had to acquire IT-related services, sometimes it takes 6 to 8 months, 12 months, 18 months. Our general timeline here is about 45 days for the same service, same implementation, so we are definitely a godsend to many. Our objectives, let's talk about the top two. We want to expand the NITAAC footprint throughout the federal government. As I mentioned before I came to NITAAC, I didn't know that NITAAC existed, so it's our mission to get the word out, so to speak. Let the general public and the federal taxpayer, federal government in general, know who we are, and I'll talk about our makeup in a later slide. And probably most important is the last slide is to optimize all innovative processes. It's the way the IT landscape is changing these days. You have to stay in front of the curve, so to speak. So that's where NITAAC's positioned to do exactly that. All right, NITAAC at a glance. The first bullet I already covered. What we do, we administer a best-in-class, a BIC, I won't go into those details, government-wide acquisition contract. Our purpose is to provide information technology services and solutions for the entire federal government. So all branches of the federal government, whether it's DOD, Department of Defense, or private sector, they're allowed to use NITAAC to acquire those needs without reservation. So that is huge for us. It's also huge for the taxpayer as well. The three vehicles that we have is, I mentioned one of them is the CIO-SP3. SP3 unrestricted is the first one, SP3 small business, and the CIO-CS. We also have a well sought after assisted acquisition program now. Assisted acquisition program is huge because it allows agencies without the 1102 workforce to use us to supply those needs for them. We have in-house FACC level 3 certified COs, all DITAP certified, that can assist from cradle to grave acquisition for all of the IT-related services. And last but definitely not least, we have the government-wide strategic sourcing program housed under the CIO-CS. So I'll talk about that a little later as well. Now, what do? We have some of the best contract holders in the world. All of our contract holders are at the forefront of IT and IT-related solutions, whether it's cybersecurity, which I'll talk about, whether it's AI. We have the best of the best, and that's intentional. When we originally procured or posted the CIO vehicle, the intent was to get some of the best and have those provide a service to the American public. That's what NITAAC is positioned to do. Just talked about our contract holders. Originally, it was solicited under FAR Part 15. These are the categories we cover. It was technical capabilities, past performance, price, small business participation, and small business subcontracting goals. So before I go on, show of hands, how many here are federal folks? 2? And the rest, I'm assuming, the private sector? All right, so I'll tailor my message in accordance. So how many here are small businesses? Small business, large business? The private sector folks. All small business, large? Large? Large as well? Academia? Academia? You said academia. Yeah. Where? Oh, very good. Nice. Well, welcome. All right. The best-in-class piece, basically, that is just summer management. It is a process the government uses to make sure we're doing our due diligence. It represents a continuous circle of improvement. I'm giving you the non-1102 version of it so it makes sense. So it's sort of like a total quality management where you always have a continuous circle of improvement. You want to do better than you did the year before. I'm a business guy, so I'm a big fan of Porter's 5 Forces. Any business guys in the house? All right, I'll skip that piece. You understand. So Porter's 5 Forces model, the objective is to always find the process, refine the process, and the next time around you improve the process. That's basically what BIC is. So BIC for us is a sum under management. The entire federal government takes the GWACs. They want to look at those GWACs and find out how it can be more efficient, how they can be more efficiently employed. The objective is to have economies of scale. So if we're buying this one widget or one piece, we spread that throughout the entire federal government, then what we do is save the taxpayer dollars by lowering the cost efficiency. That's basically what that is. Spoke about our vehicles, the CIO SP3, SP3 unrestricted, SP3 small business. They all have a $20 billion ceiling, or both have a $20 billion ceiling. Contracts were originally made back in 2012. They were ran for a 10-year period. Now we've recently tried to procure CIO SP4, but there are some protest issues, so we had to extend this vehicle to ensure that we did not have a break in service. So that's why that changed from 2012 to 2024. The ordering period, since we don't have any 1102s, I won't go into great details about that. It's also a 15-year performance period. That being said, if you issue a task order prior to expiration, you can extend it up to 5 years. So that's why it's 15 years vice 10. So it would run through now 2024. It expires in 2024. You can be extended through 2029 if you have a task order that's issued prior to the expiration of the vehicle. It's for our commercial and non-commercial IT solutions. So across the board, gives you some flexibility, very, very, very wide. We have over 137 labor categories. That was done by design as well. So the FAR allows us as 1102s to be very flexible. By allowing different labor categories, it allows our end users to extend their contract needs and to provide some flexibility throughout the process. As the next bullet states, the order types, we run the gamut, everything from firm fixed price and everything in between. So that's used to include time and material. And here's a breakdown of the contract holders that we do have. Probably more important to the folks in the house here, the small businesses. We have 339 small business contract holders. That's huge. NITAAC, I like to think of us as being the conduit for the federal government to go find small businesses and for the small businesses to meet with the federal government. Even if you're not on contract, you have the opportunity to go out and try and partner or team with some of the contract holders. Now, we have a forward-facing website that will require all of our contract holders to keep updated, to include phone numbers, to include email contacts, and point of contacts for a program manager. So if you're out there looking to source and select, and I've been in those shoes, by the way, so if you're looking for business opportunities, there's nothing to prevent you from going onto the NITAAC website, finding out who our contract holders are, and then stating your where. Find out if you can partner with them. I will say this, and it's probably not part of the selection, but as a small business, you want to make sure you have your elevator speech in place. You want to make sure you have a capability statement there. I talk to small businesses all the time, and more times than not, I ask them what they do, and I get a list of 1,000 pieces. So you want to narrow that down to what you do really well, and if you can offer a benefit, you want to make sure you have that benefit at the ready. Reach out to some of these contract holders, and the sky's the limit. Talk about CLOCS, IT Commodities and Services, which is the third vehicle or suite. Each contract holder here has a $20 billion ceiling. It was awarded back in 2015. Now we're in the process now. If you are a small business looking for an opportunity, we'll be posting that new solicitation at the end of this year. Well, we'll be doing RFIs by the end of this year, and by mid-spring next year, we'll be posting that opportunity for award. It's a smaller vehicle than the CLSP3 vehicle, but it's very available. For what I'm hearing now, there is not a lot of opportunities in the IT space, especially for the federal government with the rash of protest concerns as of late. So this will probably be the first one to the board, if you will. Look for that in the spring of 2024. Like the other two vehicles, it does have a 10-year ordering period. It runs from 2015 to 2025. As mentioned, we'll be reiterating or actually reposting that for the next iteration of this vehicle next spring. Same 15-year ordering performance period, so I won't go back through the nuances of that, exact same as the CLSP3. The ordering types here are limited. This is commercial in accordance with Part 15. So we just want commercial products only, just for that vehicle. Fixed price, labor hour, time and materials. The beauty here is that we have what we call the TRP, the Technology Refresh Program, that allows our contract holders to add an item that's not available as it comes needed. The IT landscape is consistently changing, so if you're in the position where you're a small business, you may have the latest and the greatest new technology, and then you have an opportunity to reach out to those as well, and maybe have that added to a contract, as long as it's commercial. And the beauty here is that it's commodities enabling solution is a click and pay. You can buy one off, you can buy a group. So it's traditionally under SAT. Those items that you can do standalone buying or bulk items, which provides a whole lot of flexibility in our arena. And here are some of the items that we offer on the CIOS strategic sourcing. First one I think is huge, cloud solutions. Cloud solutions are, especially if it's software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. I think the whole cybersecurity, which I'll be talking about a little bit later, and the artificial intelligence, which is the next bullet, kind of go hand in hand. There are a lot of small businesses out there now because we're changing from that brick and mortar existence to a more virtual environment. That being the case, now the attack surfaces have expanded exponentially. So first and foremost, I think one of the big things for us is the service as a software as a service solutions, provide especially small business an avenue to kind of protect data, protect themselves, and protect against some of the cybersecurity attacks. We also offer hardware to software, enterprise license solutions, maintenance and warranties. I mentioned that at the very beginning. That was huge for me before I got here. I'll give you the story real quick. I work for a government publishing office. That's the branch of government that does the passports. So we do passports from A to Z, everything from the ink, everything from building the equipment. And one of the biggest problems there was having enterprise-wide licenses and maintenance. If you're not tracking them, you may have a license agreement that expired yesterday or expires in 2 months, but then you got a project that's running 18 months. So you have to go out and try and, if you're 1102, then you understand the nuance here, the nature. It may take 2 years to get that in place, but you may have 2-3 days to get it done. So NITAAC is a great place for that to happen. Traditionally, we can probably get those done in about 10 days. So if you're ever in that position, NITAAC is definitely the vehicle to look toward. And the last here is the health biomedical research IT. We started as a health IT niche, so we'll always be that, but we've quickly grown from health IT to all things IT. I think in the very beginning, IT was sort of centered now, but now it expanded. Everyone does IT, and it's really not that big a difference unless you're doing some sort of biomedical research, R&D, things of that nature. Here's some other IT needs that can be met there. I won't go through those, but probably most importantly, telecommunications plan, that's huge, video conferencing, and much more. Next bullet here, I'll probably skip through, but if you're, how many agency representatives we have here? DOD, private sector? Just for guy here. Mr. in uniform. So for you, in the event that you're looking for 1102 support, we have what we call the Assisted Acquisition Program, where, as I mentioned in the beginning, our CEOs can do your acquisitions for you. So. GSS, we also a government-wide strategic sourcing solution, one of the 3 preferred locations from OMB, and whether it's laptops, monitors, software, and hardware, we offer those as well as competitive prices. Now that list is updated annually. It's based on the needed federal government. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about the economies of scale, but what we try and do is offer the latest and the greatest OMB compliant equipment for those in need. Okay, the NITAAC GWAC overview. While I go through this, I'll go ahead and go cover it. I mentioned that we're a GWAC, government-wide acquisition contract. We also designated by the Office of Management and Budget as being the best in class, and went through that quickly. What we do is task and delivery orders against the contract for IT needs. If you're a non-1102, that probably wouldn't mean a whole lot for you, but it allows the federal government an opportunity to buy the things they need, IT-related, from pre-competed contracts. So the contract's already pre-competed. Members of the federal government can go there, look for their needs, and have those applied quickly. Now, the major advantage here is that we are an IDIQ. That probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but it means that we're a one source. A bunch of vehicles combined into one where people can buy indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity as the need persists. Now, the advantage for NITAAC is that we offer about 3 to 5 quality proposals per RFQ or RFP. So that's huge. If you go out to some of the other sites, GSA, NASA Soup, you may post, general schedule, or you may post of something nice, NASA Soup, and potentially get 40 offers back. You have to go through and review 40 proposals. NITAAC will streamline that process. Typically about 3 to 5 quality proposals per posting. So that makes things a lot quicker. If you're 1102, or if you're sat in the 1102 seat, you can definitely understand how that streamlines the process. So because these contract awards are pre-competed, we take the red out, so to speak, like Visine back in the day, and we make it a lot less painful for you. Probably the biggest advantage here, especially from where I'm sitting now, is that there are no protests of orders under $10 million. So protests in the federal government are huge, especially since as of November and October of 2022, there were a lot of changes for the SBA guidance, and those guidance have actually put crosshairs, for lack of a better word, on some of the GWACs. People are looking for opportunities to derail processes. You do that through the FAR Part 33 and the protest process itself. So NITAAC wants these awarded because we're in the FAR Part 16, unless it's above $10 million and there is no violation of scope, period of performance, or the maximum ceiling value, you cannot protest. Incidentally, what we do for every task order or for every offering or requirement we take, we review it to ensure that the scope is not exceeded. We review it to make sure that the period of performance is not run its course, and we also look at maximizing the ceiling value. There's so much ceiling there with $20 billion that is very unlikely to occur. Some of the advantages for our GWAC versus the open market, I won't go through those for this group, but technically we do things a lot faster. I mentioned that in the open market there is a process under FAR 15 that goes from A to Z. We traditionally go from A, B, C, and that's pretty much it. I mentioned the protest then, but what you probably should take from this slide is that we do things a lot quicker than the open market. A lot quicker with a lot less red tape. Talk about NITAAC at a glance. Now, we started back in 1996. 1996 on the footsteps of the Clean Air Code Act. So to give a quick history lesson, back in those days, the federal government was buying yesterday's technology at today's prices. So because it was taking so long for that to happen, we go through, you post a solicitation. If it takes 2 years for it to come to bear, 2 years, that technology is already expired. The prices are already in place. So NITAAC and some of the other GWACs were actually brought about or put in place to prevent that from happening. This is the act that actually started or created the CIO position, the Chief Information Officer position. So the government's entire intent was to be smarter at buying, to have some officials in place that understood the process, and let those officials mandate some of the things that we could do to streamline the process to make this issue better. I won't go through the entire scope here, but NITAAC has done a lot. You went from the first iteration all the way to where we are now. A couple of key points that I like to point out is we are probably one, if not the only, CMMI Level 3 certified government program in the U.S. So that's huge for us. It goes back to what I said initially about the continuous circle of improvement. We're always looking for ways to better manage process, have personnel in place that really understand what it takes to serve, really understand what it takes to see the entire business venue. For our jobs at 1102 is to be a business advisor. Me being a guy with a business background, I definitely appreciate that. The nuances of businesses are constantly changing. So there's no one size that fits every avenue, one size that fits every situation. So for us as 1102s, you want to always look at the entire evolution of the business process and then find ways to implement that to make it better. Now this says BIC is designed for agencies to meet small socioeconomic goal needs. Technically that is true, but the federal government has a mandate overall for us to do better, to be faster, more inclusive for small businesses. NITAAC is that place. The contracting officers set aside in accordance with FAR Part 19. Outside of NIH, those requirements are very superseded. It has to be anything under SAT, but at our agency, if it's 1.2 million and up, it's also set aside. And what that means that you can also focus business to reach small businesses, hub zone, service disabled, veteran-owned small businesses, 8A, as well as women-owned small businesses. Now back to the continuous circle improvement. For our next iteration, we added 3 other categories. So we have the Indian economic enterprises, the Indian small business economic enterprises, and we also now have the veteran-owned small businesses. Now, VAs under Title 38, they have some particular nuances that don't apply everywhere. So for our vehicle, because we have a lot of, VA is a very valued customer for us, we created that opportunity for some of our contract holders to meet the needs for IT services and solutions by adding the additional category of the veteran-owned small business in addition to the service disabled veteran-owned small business. The nuance here is that under FAR Part 19, service disabled veteran-owned small business is a requirement, but the veteran-owned small business is not. So we've definitely expanded the envelope of the role to get better, more reach, and make it more efficient for the entire federal government. 81 certification status probably wouldn't apply here, so I'll skip that slide. EGOS. Now, EGOS is, how many here are familiar with SAM.gov? Okay, so SAM.gov, EGOS is our version of that. So you're going out through, when you're posting anything, because you're under FAR Part 16, task orders require fair opportunity. This is how we meet that mandate for fair opportunity. So we want to give all of our contract holders fair opportunity for all business bin requirements, business bin any proposals that are solicited. And this is how we make sure that's done, is that online competition management does several things. One thing it does, it gives you a source for market research. It allows you to kind of track, well, I shouldn't say, but it's mandated to be transparent. It provides transparency for our contract holders. They have a running record of who buys what and when. That's what that's reference here, the database record of a life of acquisition, meaning cradle to grave. You can track exactly what has occurred, when it should occur, and it allows us to manage the solicitation process from beginning to end. I think that's huge as 1102 because one of the biggest things we need here is transparency. Transparency in our offering, transparency in processes, and you want to definitely make sure we have a fair opportunity for all. I won't go into the registration process, but if you do become a contract holder, then you can reach out to us at NITAAC.nih.gov for that information. Here are some of our customers. So at this point, we've run through the entire federal government. Just about everyone, even folks with their own vehicles, like I mentioned VA, they reach out to NITAAC. Part of the reason they do that is because we're fast and efficient. Economy of scales, I mean, it's huge. So if there is a need for IT solutions, NITAAC is probably your first stop on the bus, based on our innovation and based on our flexibility. Let's talk about some technology trends. Now, technology trends are huge. I mentioned at the very top, we would talk about AI, which is artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. Incidentally, those both go hand in hand. So when I go through this, I'll try and elaborate on what I mean. IT modernization. Here's a stick. For the federal government in general, back in 2019, OMB did a study. They found out that 80% of our infrastructure, IT, software, and hardware, is aging. Very, very old. And in the federal government, there's a reluctance, honestly, to update those systems. Part of the reason being that people are comfortable. We have the agency legacy systems. If you have legacy systems, it may be only one person in the entire agency that understands that system. So what the situation the government is now is that you have an agency legacy system, that person retires, you have to bring them back at sometimes 2-3 times the amount they were paying before as a federal employee just to mandate those systems. Now what happens when that person leaves? You're in a situation where you have to try and keep digging to find a solution. That makes going down the rabbit hole. So the way to do that is to modernize IT. IT modernization is across the board, and that's one of the NITAAC's mission. Here the risks for not modernizing, inefficient, because some of the aging legacy systems are not quick, fast, and efficient as some of the systems we have now. Cybersecurity, which is huge now, because actually the older systems are not structured to prevent cyber attacks, and those bad actors are fully aware of that. So if you don't have the structure in place, I mentioned some of the software as a service platforms are something embedded, and it's really hard to stop cyber attacks. Next bullet here: increased cost to maintain legacy systems. I went through that already, and the inability to meet current and expected mission requirements. That means that as the mission changes, because it does, just like business, what we do is very, very dynamic. Even more dynamic is the IT landscape. So the federal government has to pivot most often on a dime, and if you're not positioned to do that, then it's very, very hard to do it. You have to have the base, you have to have the solution in place, and that's where NITAAC comes in. We try and get the federal government up to speed, for lack of a better word. Talked about IT modernization. The very bottom bullet is probably the most important. We want to ensure we have better pricing because we owe that to the taxpayers. We want to make sure we have better contract terms because we owe that to the taxpayers. And we want to have a better economy of scale. That's huge in contracts because if you find one loophole that can be exploited, I'll share this experience as well. Prior to coming to the federal government, I worked on the other side. So I worked for the private sector, and honestly, there were so many nuances that I could exploit through federal government contracting just based on the structure of the contract itself. So our mission here is to try and prevent that. A lot of ways you can do that is through IT modernization. If you're taking IT facets, well, we can go through and review pricing, review buying history, review some of the contract terms, update clauses. That helps us have better, stronger, faster, more concrete contract terms in place. Because if not, there's definitely an opportunity to exploit those. And honestly, it's business. But to be fair in general, we have a responsibility to not only you, the taxpayer, but everyone in this room to ensure that the contracts that are put in place are pretty solid. Talk about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is huge. I mentioned at the very beginning that cybersecurity and AI go hand in hand. Our current administration has a huge push to ensure that America keeps leadership in both cybersecurity and AI. One being the Executive Order 14028, improving the nation's cybersecurity. The intent of that document was for us to be more open. There has been a reluctance throughout time for the federal government to be apprehensive of reaching out to the private sector for help. That needs to change. And some of the executive orders we put in place for both cybersecurity as well as AI they're trying to remove those barriers. They want to remove those barriers so it's open sharing between everyone here, because our mission is to serve the taxpayer. Everyone in this room is a taxpayer, so we should work in conjunction, hand in hand, to ensure that America is best suited to prevent cyber attacks. Cyber attacks not only internally but externally. There are bad actors all over the world that would benefit from having PII. They would benefit from just exploiting some of the government demands. So it is our charge, it is our mission to try and improve that stance. And honestly, the last bullet I think is most important, that it'll improve the software supply chain. So if we don't strengthen the supply chain, where we're getting the information from, black market or gray market items, which are huge. Prior to coming here, I worked for the VA, and believe it or not, one of the biggest challenges, I'll take it back. One of my charges there was to rewrite FAR Part 9. And under FAR Part 9, there was about this much guidance when it came to gray market items. So we had to strengthen that because there was an influx of computers that weren't Mac, but they were Mac, or like software. So once it gets into the supply chain, it's really hard to ferret that out. So the best way to stop it is to prevent it from being introduced in the supply chain. So that is huge for us. So the Executive Order 14028 kind of touched on that briefly, in order for the United States to be a leader in cybersecurity and prevent some of the breaches. Now here's the reason why. The federal government is the second highest for cyber attacks, second only to education and research. So we have an average of, I think it's 1,136 attacks per week. So people are always looking for the ones who are stopped. The bad actors love the federal government and military to exploit, whether it's PII or whether it's military secret. It is huge for us. It is huge for us, so we have a mandate to try and strengthen that, to cover those opportunities. I call them areas of opportunity. So for the federal government, IT is one way to get that done, because now you can sit at your desk, and exploit the entire United States unless we have provisions in place. Quick story for you. I know a young man that he's a hacker, for lack of a better word. So the guy went to school. He was there, I think 2 years of college, but some of his challenge is to go out and then try and hack a government site, try and hack business sites. And he's so good at it, I'm floored. I talk to him sometime like, why are you doing this? And like, for him, it's fun. He's not he's not even being agitated. He just thinks that the way we are in the federal government is so behind time, for lack of a better word, that we put in the news process and he goes in and hacks and like, look, it took me about 5 minutes to do this or 10 days to do this. So he does it across the board. So the United States across the board, as well as the federal government, we're getting started now. We're hiring some of those guys to exploit the opportunity. So I think it's about vision. It goes back to what I stated about working hand in hand for cyber attacks. That's one of the initiatives. We bring in some of those folks and see how they can help the federal government, prevent some of those attacks. It's always important to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. So you can see year over year, there's about a 13% increase in the amount of funding. This is just for cybersecurity. In FY22, it was $58.4 billion. FY23, it was $65.8 billion. And in 24, it's $74.5 billion earmarked just for cybersecurity. The major focus is on improving detection. The last executive order for detection laid out a whole step for a NIST, a whole lot of steps for the federal government in order for us to address some of those opportunities. Now, that is a living, breathing document. It consistently changes. That document may change next year. So the way the most recent EO setup for cybersecurity is, it allows us to grow. So a lot of nuances, sort of like the FAR, where it's very, very vague, but it's intentionally vague for us to fill in the blanks, fill the gaps, if you will. All right, I'll stop there. Any questions? Feedback? Comments? All right. Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence goes hand in hand with cybersecurity. One of the biggest risks for artificial intelligence is cybersecurity. One of the biggest risks for cybersecurity is AI. So the use of both are interchangeable. For AI, we use AI to try and breach cybersecurity, look for opportunities that are not, obvious to the eye. We use the artificial intelligence mandates to poke holes in the process to see how we can better improve. Continuous circle of improvement. So that's huge for the government. Now, from where we're sitting, from an IT standpoint, it's constantly growing. And as we go up, more money is spent there. So if you're a small business out there and you're looking for an area of opportunity, I'd say cybersecurity and telecommunications are huge. There's always a big need for that, especially if you have AI. Now, I do these conferences quite often, and more times than not, at least twice per conference, I spoke to someone that has, the next latest and greatest innovative idea that no one else is working on. Right, so for us, it allows us the opportunity to have conversation with those folks, go back and have a open communication, and then what I typically do is try and point them in the direction of one of our contract holders that's leading the charge in that area. So I'll give them the information, I have them reach out to them, and hopefully 5 years down the line, 2 years down the line, even 1 year down the line, is something that allow the government to assure up its position. Now, there's a lot of artificial intelligence. I think one of the biggest things is how it's defined. Now, we're not talking about machine learning alone or deep learning. Machine learning being the ability for a software machine to pick up process, to pick up patterns, and then deep learning that's that cognitive brain-like functionality. That's actually blueprinted, we'll call it, blueprinted to move forward. A lot of folks in my industry, especially federal government, don't think that artificial intelligence is just the next and latest and greatest. I tend to think differently. I think that the way we're doing business now is conducive to using artificial intelligence, one, because we don't have the resources, two, because it's such a new found technology that moving forward, there's a whole lot that we will discover. I will say this, and it's probably on some slides that follow. AI may not be a one-size-fits-all for everything. AI does not mean that we have the one solution that covers all bases. It's a very iterative process. So first and foremost, and I have this on another bullet, you have to look at what your need is, figure out if AI is actually will fit that need, and you have to have the patience to follow it through. This started back in 2020 with the National AI Initiative that became law in January of 2021, and the entire purpose of that document was for us, being the United States of America, to lead the charge for AI and also protect a lot of our civil liberties. There's so much at risk that can be exposed through exploitation of AI. So my biggest stick, I think AI is great. I don't think AI would ever replace human functionality, but I think with AI we have to ensure that our data, we have data integrity, that the data analysis are in place, and we have to have some governance in place. So that's what those are. The last bullet here is the executive orders 13859 and 13960 kind of speak to that. Now, I mentioned this at the very beginning. On October 30th, President Biden issued the executive order for AI. It laid out, and it's about 80 pages, right? So if you go through the 80 pages, he's basically saying that in order for us to improve, in order for us to get better, be a leader, and be transparent in the process, first you must have. There's actually 8 privileges or principles, we'll call them. Principles that are included, but I think more important for us is public trust. The biggest push against AI is to have public trust, public not trust in what the government does. If you're giving up all of this information, giving up PII, if you're giving up data, they want to know how the data is being used and make sure that we're not violating the civil liberties, because it would be very easy for it to do it. Another thing would be, institutional rights. You want to make sure that if we're doing this, we're very, very responsible. So for me, I think the biggest piece here is governance. We'll go down to the last pillar here. In order for us to advance the American leadership in AI development around the world, we have to be transparent. We have to be very, very innovative. So the bullet before talking about innovative and competition, that means that we have to be at the forefront. So even though the United States cannot overly mandate or overly provide guidance for us, we need to have a structure, and I think sort of like the FAR, we've created a structure here where there's a box. As long as you're working within the box and you're remaining transparent and reporting out, I think that is the best way for us to move forward. All right, let's talk about how NITAAC can help with whether it's AI, cybersecurity, and some of the other things. I do have 2 videos here, so what I'll do is at the very end of this, I'll play both videos, kind of give you a break. One is 4 minutes, and I think the other is about 2 minutes. NITAAC, well, CIO-SP3 and SP3 small business have 10 task areas. These are the task areas. Relevant to what we're talking about today would be task area 3, task area 7, and task area 9. Those 3 task areas are things that we worked on in the next iteration of the vehicle. One that we changed the title from imaging, and we also changed the title from critical infrastructure protection. And here's the next iteration for AI through CIO-SP4, the task areas. Mainly would be on the task area 1 for IT services, biomedical research, health sciences, and healthcare. I mentioned that we are a health IT first and foremost, so that's where the bread and butter lies. Task area 3 is now digital media, and then task area 7 is renamed for cybersecurity. Those are 3 heavy hitters, we'll call them. 3 of the fastest growing task areas we anticipate from CIO-SP3 to CIO-SP4. That's the reason it's highlighted here. Even though software development is hugely important, and digital government and cloud services is probably second and third. But the 3 that are highlighted are biggest growth areas that we expect. Next is a video for cybersecurity, so I'll play that for you and then give you some idea.
To an array of best-in-class cybersecurity services and solutions through our CIO-SP3
Probably want to start that
and CIO-SP3 small business government. To an array of best-in-class cybersecurity services and solutions through our CIO-SP3 and CIO-SP3 small business government-wide acquisition contracts. These GWACs have specific task areas where you can fulfill the need for cybersecurity solutions. The task areas include Task Area 1, IT services for biomedical research, health sciences, and healthcare. This task area supports biomedical research, health sciences, and healthcare by performing studies and analysis and providing operational, technical, and maintenance services for the systems, subsystems, and equipment, some of which interface with and are extensions to information systems throughout the federal government. An example of work to be performed under this task area is securing healthcare and biomedical research systems in accordance with HIPAA and other regulations. Task Area 3, Imaging. This task area addresses systems and services that support the collection, storage, and retrieval of digital images. Digital images can include scanned documents, medical images, geographical information systems, video, and photographs. An example of work to be performed under this task area is securing imaging so that personally identifiable information or classified information is not exposed. Task Area 7, Critical Infrastructure and Information Assurance. Task Area 7 supports the protection of critical infrastructure. assurance of agency information, and operations that protect and defend information and information systems by ensuring the following: confidentiality, integrity, availability, accountability, restoration, authentication, non-repudiation, protection, detection, monitoring, and event react capabilities. This is the most robust category for cyber services. Examples of tasks that can be performed are cybersecurity, critical infrastructure asset identification and configuration management databases, information assurance of critical infrastructure, risk management, vulnerability assessment and threat identification, facility protection planning, information system security, security operations center development and operations management, application security, disaster recovery, critical infrastructure continuity and contingency planning, incident response planning and execution, security certification and accreditation, training and awareness programs, exercise and simulation, Federal Information Security Management Act FISMA implementation support, cryptographic support and services, records management, trusted internet connection implementation, security review and analysis of automated information systems, identity management and assurance, intelligent automated data collection and analysis, and finally, IT forensics and discovery. Whatever your cybersecurity need, NITAAC has you covered. Under our best-in-class contracts, our award-winning contract holders offer the most up-to-date emerging technologies in the cybersecurity field. These cybersecurity services and solutions include everything from basic antivirus software installation and maintenance to virtual network environments for cybersecurity testing and training. Email NITAAC support or visit our website at nitaac.nih.gov to find out more information.
Now let's talk about a few artificial intelligence solutions. For us, the NITAAC contract holders they offer the gamut. Anything from machine learning, which I mentioned earlier, deep learning, generative adversarial networks, supervised learning, as well as reinforced learning. If it's out there and it's AI related, then our contract holders are at the forefront of providing that technology. And I mentioned earlier, for us, I think it's huge, whether it's the DoD or the private sector. We'll call it not the private sector, the civilian sector, as well as the private sector. We want to make sure that at the forefront of what we offer for the federal government is the latest and the greatest in that technology. And honestly, we can't do that unless we're doing it in conjunction with the general public. So it's folks like you, if anything comes about, any new initiatives that you're aware of, NITAAC is a place where you can reach out and have a conversation. NIH, Gov, you look at the website at the very end, but reach out to us, provide us information, provide leads, if you will, and then what we like to do is to be interactive, for lack of a better word, and if it's something that's out there, especially as artificial intelligence, etc., it may benefit some of our contract holders. Here are some of the applications that we're reviewing now: developing precision medicine. I mentioned this earlier, supporting cyber threat. That's huge. I think that's probably at the forefront as it stands now, in addition to some of the AI initiatives, but I think the advanced cyber intelligence is huge for us to shore up our positions to provide or address risk management areas of opportunities. And the next bullet here talks about helping agencies develop smarter business solutions. That's the name of the game here. We are doing contract. It's business awareness. We want to make sure the government being smarter with the American dollar. We have a requirement to be good stewards for the taxpayer. So as you being taxpayers, we want to make sure we're looking out for your money, making sure that your money is being spent in accordance. And the developments that we have are developments that will lead us not only today but to the future. And that goes to the next bullet here, developing AI tools that can support our contract data. We want to make sure we have smarter contracts. And, creating things like chat box technology, which we have, but chat box technology is, not at the forefront, but even though it helps to automatically respond to questions and concerns, at NITAAC we like to keep it personal, so we employ both. I think it's probably one of few federal government agencies where we still have that live contact. Customer service is probably our niche. It's first and foremost for us. Here's some considerations for using AI. Now, this is really mandated for on the federal government side. You always want to discern that advanced technology is beneficial or will be beneficial. budget and time restraints. You always have to take a look at it first and foremost, because AI is a iterative process. It could take time, so you want to make sure that you first and foremost have sufficient data analysis, because that's really what it takes. You want to make sure that the data that you're trying to interpret is exactly what you need. You want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. So there's a lot that's required on the agency side prior to trying to go out and deploy or look for AI solutions. You have to first and foremost know what your need is. So once you develop that need, AI in some cases could be a godsend. In some cases it may be overkill. In some cases it may not be what you need. But it is not a one-size-fits-all, but when you can do your homework, your due diligence, for lack of a better word, then AI is very, very, very a supportive function. And the last pillar here, I've probably spoke about that a lot, is maintaining public trust. As mentioned earlier, the biggest thing here is public trust to the federal government. So people are reluctant to give up information because you're really not sure how it's going to be used. So we have a mandate to ensure that we have the proper governance in place. And first and foremost, AI, I would think that would be what we need. You don't want to put the civilians, our citizens, at risk. Here's another video regarding AI. All right, we're at the portion now where I want to provide some advice to small business contractors. There were a couple in the house here. It's always an opportunity for us to support the small businesses. I think small businesses at the very fabric of the American economy. Being a previous small business owner myself, I uniquely understand opportunities, networking, so anytime we can provide that service, I always take that opportunity. Some of the advice I give, some of this I spoke about earlier. If you wish to work on federal government contract, really focus on your strength. That goes back to having your elevator speech in place, know what your capabilities are. You can't do everything. You want to be take your area where you're strongest, and even if you're developing a skill set, make sure you put that at the forefront and be able to conversate intelligently about that. And then also you want to have a purpose. I think one of the biggest things that was me from that position now is to reach out to that agency, find out what that agency is buying. You want to go to a USA Spending. Anytime you can get empty information, I'll take it back a step. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago, and I think some of the information that's publicly available now should be illegal. So, I mean, they run the gamut where they know exactly what the government's bought. They have information now that relates to the CO, how the type of decision the CO makes. They actually have the entire history of an agency and where they're going to include pricing that's available at the fingertips. So the age of information is definitely upon us. And I think if I had some advice for small businesses, get into the networks. Find out what public information is available. Find out what the initiatives are. Look at some of the GAO protests. If you look at GAO protests, you know exactly what the agency is buying. You know exactly what they have to go back to the drawing board to get it, so that's huge. So get into the lens, if you will. My grandfather always said, to understand where a man is coming from, you have to understand where you sit. So see things from where you're sitting. From a federal government perspective, do your homework prior. Always look at the public sites, look at what we're buying, and then, turn your lens in that direction. For our agency, we have a very robust team that likes to reach out and help small businesses. We've included the NIH specialist, Miss Annette Owens Scarborough. That's her email address at the very bottom. So if you have an interest of finding out what HHS is doing, the opportunities that HHS has for small businesses, I encourage you to reach out to her directly as well. All right, CLSP4 updates. Do we have any CLSP3 contract holders here? Oh, really? How many of you guys filed a protest? All right, I can talk to you. So I was going to escort you out, but CLSP4 is a iteration, is a process. For CLSP4, we plan to have that awarded prior to the expiration of CLSP3 in April on the 29th. The updates now, we currently have no protests. We've already addressed them all. There have been a number. Prior to coming here, I used to think that 10 protests were too many. So we have, far more than just that. So, but I will say this, from the NITAAC standpoint, most of the protests are less about the NITAAC and the solicitation, more about some of the ambiguities that I mentioned earlier with the SBA. So we just happen to be the crosshairs there, and here's the funny part. Prior to posting our solicitation, we actually went and partnered with the SBA. They reviewed the entire process. You have any concerns? The answer was no. But a lot of the folks that were not a part of the regulatory guidance, I think they missed the federal comment period for the SBA regulation. So as part of that process, being a policy guy, I can tell you is very unique. You have to first go out for public comment. Even before we can make any statute or regulatory guidance, we have to get the feedback, and we have to answer all of those. At the VA, I probably answered, say for any one piece of guidance, we may get 5,000 to 6,000 public comments, sometimes even more. So you have to go through those, you group them all together, go through them, and then you provide the input. So before you provide the input, as part of the regulatory process, you have to make sure that they're actually vetted, and then go all the way up to your HCA to make sure they're okay with it. So I think a lot of folks missed that process. So now they want, a second bite at the apple, if you will, so they're targeting now CLSP4. But I think the experience, honestly, is great because I am a firm believer in the protest process. I like it. I think that it allows us to sure up processes. It allows us to know that when we do put forth this vehicle, it is a vehicle that's been very, very well vetted. Vetted through GAO, vetted through COPC. Here's the very last protest we had. It was from the Court of Federal Claims back in September 22nd of 2023. It was dismissed in part and because of a corrective action that we decided to take. The corrective action honestly wasn't a big change. It was just for us to go back and be more flexible in the review process. Everything at GAO, for the most part, was dismissed with the exception of one, Systems Plus Incorporated. I think if you read some of the records out now, it appears that we had 119, 120 protests that were sustained. Not the case. So it was more, each protest generally had about 10 allegations. From those 10 allegations, they were all dismissed with the exception of one. And that one allegation, which was a copy and paste from some of the others, they just ran the gamut. So if I had to give you a number on the number of allegations that were dismissed, I'd probably say somewhere 300 to 400 that we had to address and was just thrown out by GAO. So honestly, I'm very proud of our team, very proud of how we reacted or responded to some of these protests, because that's huge. To date, from just GAO, I think we had 354 total. Does not count the agency protests, and does not count some of the other protests, so that's huge. And then for us as a team, and we're a team of about 5. So it's quite an undertaking, but it's definitely something we're very proud of because we, stuck to our guns and had to go back and read a lot of FAR, had to go back and read a lot of FAR cases and, do some interpretations. In fact, throughout the process, we had a couple of meetings with the GAO, the judges themselves, just providing input. And more times than not, well, say 99.9% of the time, they agree with our position. So that means anything. You have to take your wins when you can take them. All right, CLSP4 I mentioned here will be awarded prior to April 29th of 2024. Here's some additional consideration. This is for the small businesses. 98% of the protests received were from small businesses. I think based on my conversation with some of the folks I'm talking to, there is a belief that we are the only game in town So if they don't get on this vehicle, then there won't be another vehicle. You know, there are problems across the board to include NASA SOUP as well as GSA in the whole protest will, if you will. So they're of the mindset that if they don't get on this vehicle, if we let this opportunity pass, then we won't have another opportunity. That's the reason we're getting all these protests. But I'd like to remind those folks, I'm sure there's none in this room, but we'll have a ramp-on opportunity potentially. So in about 3 years, there's an opportunity for you to be ramped on. So if you're sitting there and you didn't get the nod, and you're a small business that was not quite up to par, it gives you 2-3 years to partner and develop. So the next time around, when we have the ramp-on, you're eligible or you're available to compete and compete earnestly. From where I'm sitting, just from a review standpoint, I think, yeah, there are opportunities out there for small businesses, and a lot of small businesses, I think it should be clearly understood that NITAAC is probably not the vehicle where you want to start. Right? We're sort of like we'll call us the NFL. So you have to be drafted into the league, so to speak. So a lot of the small businesses are startups, and they're just, you know, thinking we'll just jump on a NITAAC vehicle, but it takes a little more. As I mentioned at the very beginning, on the FAR Part 15 in earnest, we do that intentionally, so we source and select and get the best of the best. So 98% of the folks that are filing protests, for the most part, are people that just didn't make the cut. I mean, there were huge disparities between the margins or the cut lines that we established, and a lot of those folks that did file protests. But needless to say, at this point, we consider it a lesson learned. I definitely appreciate the opportunity to go through, and then I also appreciate, you know, FAR Part 33. So that is the law, so why not follow it? I mentioned this earlier as well, the recompete for CIOCS. So if you're one of those folks, it sunsets in 2025. We're starting really early. Lessons learned, we don't want to go through what we went through for CIOS before, so we're trying to get this out the door a year in advance so we can kind of get the feedbacks. The plan is to have an RFI, potentially some industry conversations, and allow you know, the general public or those that are competing to provide us some input. Last slide here, NITAAC Customer Services. I think first and foremost, that's what we do best. We are a customer service related agency. I mentioned that we're large enough to fulfill all your IT needs, but small enough to keep it personal. So NITAAC, 8 to 6 on a daily basis, we have a live representative, even though we have the chat box technology that's on the website, but you can always reach out and talk to someone. And that extends beyond just having conversations with people that are there. Anyone on our staff is available for conversations, to include myself and the director. So it's a top-down as well as a bottom-up approach. When it comes to customer service, we always want to be, you know, first and foremost, keep that earnest. 1 hour response to time for inquiry. So if you make an inquiry asking about something, we try to respond within 1 hour. A very robust library of tools and templates that you can use, review. Talk a lot about NITAAC. 2 of the vehicles you just saw are actually available for your review. Free technical reviews for SAIL SP3 and SP3 small businesses with 12-hour business response time. So if you want to submit to us a statement of work, POW SUE will review it for you and provide some of the feedbacks. I think that for us is a service we provide in earnest, because it helps us from an 1102 perspective. If you've had a PWS or SUE that's been reviewed, then it's a lot less likely for it to result in a protest or to cause some other problem. And last but not least is the federal training sessions for those in need of COPs. You can log on to our site and earn 2 continuous learning points. All right, that's it. Any questions?